Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to a State of Grace Wellbeing podcast. I'm Grace, your host, and I'm a wellbeing and mindful living coach for women. And for nearly a decade, I've been finding ways to soften out of survival mode and return to myself through mindfulness, nervous system regulation, and practices that support deep, sustainable well-being. I'm so grateful you've chosen to spend this time with me today. This week has been one of those weeks. Not dramatic, not catastrophic, just heavy. I've been struggling to sleep. My energy has been low. A migraine arrived earlier in the week, and even once the pain had eased, I found myself feeling completely drained. I've been having what I jokingly call nana naps most afternoons because my body simply says that's enough for today. And over the last few days, I've been reminded of something I sometimes forget. I live with a mental health condition called Persistent Depression Disorder, sometimes just called persistent depression. It's something I don't often talk about because thankfully it's well managed with medication. And most of the time I simply get on with life and don't really think about it. But every now and then something shifts. Maybe it's lack of sleep, maybe it's winter, and maybe it's stress. Maybe it's a combination of a lot of little things, and suddenly I notice the signs. Everything takes a little more effort. My energy disappears more quickly. My thoughts become a little darker around the edges. It's not hopelessness, it's just heavier. And here's the interesting thing. Because I spend so much of my life supporting other women to tune into themselves, I realised this week that I still need those same reminders. Even those of us who know the practices can forget to listen, and sometimes our bodies whisper long before they shout. I've also noticed something else. When my mood begins to dip, my first instinct isn't always to rest. It's often to push through, to keep being productive, to keep ticking off the list, to convince myself that if I just keep moving, everything will somehow sort itself out. But healing has never really worked like that. Our nervous systems don't respond to pressure. They respond to safety. And sometimes safety looks surprisingly ordinary. An afternoon nap, a warm meal, a walk outside, sitting quietly in the sunshine, doing less instead of more. And this week I visited my Chinese medicine practitioner, and one of the things we talked about was how important warm foods are during winter. It made so much sense because when we constantly eat cold foods during the colder months, our digestive system has to work much harder. That extra work requires energy. Energy that, if you're already feeling depleted, simply isn't there. So something as simple as choosing soup instead of salad, porridge instead of cold cereal, a warm herbal tea instead of an iced drink can actually become an act of kindness towards the body. I loved that reminder because sometimes well-being isn't about finding the next miracle. Sometimes it's remembering the basics. Then there's sunshine. Winter has a funny way of making us want to stay indoors. And the mornings are cold, the afternoons disappear quickly, and before we know it, we've gone several days without really standing in natural light. Yet, our bodies need sunlight. not only for vitamin D production, but because vitamin D plays an important role in helping our bodies absorb calcium to support our bones, our muscles, and our overall well-being. It's amazing how something as ordinary as sitting in the winter sunshine with a cup of tea for 15 minutes can gently remind you that your whole system is connected to life. I also think sunshine nourishes something deeper. Maybe not scientifically, but spiritually. There is something about feeling the warmth of the sun on your face that quietly says, "You're still here. Keep going, and I've got you." This week has been a reminder to me that healing isn't always about moving forward. Sometimes healing is simply noticing. Noticing we're tired, noticing we're overwhelmed, noticing we're asking too much of ourselves, and responding with compassion instead of criticism. I think so many women carry this invisible expectation that we should always be functioning at 100%. Always coping, always producing, always smiling. But we're not machines. We're part of nature. Nature has seasons. Trees don't apologize for losing their leaves. The earth doesn't feel guilty for winter. It simply trusts that spring will come. Perhaps we could offer ourselves that same grace. Maybe this season that you're in isn't your failure. Maybe it's just winter. Maybe your body isn't letting you down. Maybe it's asking you to slow down long enough to be heard. If you're here today and you've been feeling unusually tired, or your motivation has disappeared, or life simply feels heavier than usual, perhaps today isn't the day to ask, "What's wrong with me?" Perhaps today we ask, "What does my body need from me?" That question changes everything. As we finish today, I'd like to leave you with a gentle invitation. Find one small way to nourish yourself today. It doesn't have to be complicated. A nourishing bowl of soup, 10 minutes sitting in the sunshine, a nap without feeling guilty, a phone call with someone who fills your cup, or simply placing your hand on your heart and reminding yourself that difficult weeks don't define your life. They simply ask for a little more tenderness. And thank you for spending these few moments with me. Take gentle care of yourselves this week. Until next time, may you move through your days with mindfulness, compassion, and grace. Bye for now.